As I was watching season 5 of Stranger Things, I noticed from the first episode that the character dialogue wasn't very well written. Was Stranger Things always this stupid? I mean, it has been a while. Maybe I'm just more critical since I'm older. Turns out it wasn't. Apparently, Stranger Things used to be actually really good. It's the whole reason why season 5 is the most popular show in the world right now. So what happened? Why are there so many cliche and unnecessary lines? Why are there so many characters? And why does every single one of them have a scene where they have a revelation and they need to explain their master plan?
This is Will. This is Holly. This, of course, is Max.
It's been 10 years since Stranger Things Season 1 came out. 10 years of build-up to this climactic final season, and it's easily the worst in the entire series. There are characters who barely do anything. Some of them exist purely just to say quippy, unfunny lines. I feel like this show is being written for goo-goo gaga babies who are also blind and need everything explained to them. And it doesn't help at all that Netflix is literally having their writers dumb down their shows for the people on their phones. It turns out the creators of Stranger Things have no idea how to write anymore. You'd think that the original creators of a show that had such a promising start would know how to write their own story, and they kept saying that the ending was planned all along when it was blatantly obvious that they were making it up as they were going. Like most people, I loved Stranger Things Season 1. It was an exciting, scary, homey TV show that fully immersed you in its world. The acting was great, the writing was great, everything was great. In Stranger Things 5, however, it appears both of those things have been completely thrown out the window. There are so many performances this season that feel so weak. Some of this dialogue is just so poorly written. It's like they were drawing out of a hat full of cliche things to write in a script, and they pulled every single one of them. And this stinks because there are genuinely some really good actors on the cast, and most of them are barely used at all this season. Like Sadie Sink. What did Max do besides coming back to life? She was just brought back for the end. Just to be there. For Finn Wolfhard. I also feel like Mike was kind of just there. Okay, now I want to talk about Byler in that one scene, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Stranger Things is a show with way too many main characters, and somehow the ones that fans wanted to see the most from barely got any screen time at all. Why is Murray still here? Why does he have so much screen time? Every single scene he's in contributes to the exact issue I'm talking about. Initially, Murray's sole purpose as a character was just to move along whatever romance was happening that season, except in season 4 where he was also kind of just there. In season 2, it was Jonathan and Nancy. Season 3 was Joyce and Hopper. And again, he's kind of just there to be funny. Anyways, I got a bit sidetracked. If you can't tell, Murray is my favorite character. I think Stranger Things' bloated cast of characters is definitely a contributing factor to its horrendous dialogue, but I don't think it's entirely what caused it. The writers are actively choosing to have these characters say these stupid lines. A lot of the jokes in this show are characters making basic observations in a sarcastic manner, usually at the expense of another character. I don't think I laughed at all while watching Stranger Things 5. I probably smiled during the epilogue because I fell for the emotional bait of wrapping everything up with a little bow, but I don't think I laughed at any of the jokes. Probably because they're mainly coming from Murray, my favorite character.
And you know I'm a good enough shot to hit any mark, no matter how small.
Jesus.
Now set up my target.
Okay. Quite large, actually. My potato sacks.
One of the worst writing tropes that I've seen over the course of Stranger Things 5 is when a character has an idea and is like, okay guys, here's the plan. This happens so many times. Everyone's always explaining stuff. This is a good example of how Netflix is making shows for people staring at their phones instead of actually watching. It's such boring storytelling and filmmaking. Why do we need to explain everything 30 times? Watching TV shows and movies is so much more fun when everything isn't spoon-fed to you like you're a little baby. Writing a show like this leaves so little up to audience interpretation. It's like the Duffer Brothers completely forgot about the storytelling rule, show, don't tell. Or they just think their audience is completely devoid of critical thinking skills. Pretty much every single one of these scenes plays out the exact same way. And it's always a different character. They notice something or randomly realize something, and then they magically have a plan. It is an extremely boring and repetitive way to tell the audience what's going to happen next. There are so many scenes where a bunch of characters are gathered in a room talking about what they're going to do next. I understand having like 1 or 2 of these scenes, considering how big the cast of characters is. But if the cast wasn't that big in the first place, I can't make a video about Stranger Things 5's stupid dialogue without mentioning Will's coming out scene. This scene feels like a Darman video. Why in the world did this need to be another gathering a bunch of people in a room scene? Why did the whole town of Hawkins need to know that Will likes boys? It's completely unrealistic. This scene would have been perfectly fine and sweet if it was just Will, his mom, and Mike. That would have been fine. But they didn't do that. Instead, they did this.
Or me. Or me. Or me.
Or me. Or me. I'm a dog too!
I think we all remember the scene in the finale episode where Mike said, "Not friends, best friends." Apparently Noah Schnapp had to ask for that scene. It is so ridiculous that the Duffer Brothers went through all this effort to sprinkle all these little hints of Byler throughout the series, and then it's just, Will had a crush.
You had a little crush.
Throughout the season, there are so many nothing performances. That's not to say that there aren't great actors who did great performances this season. With such a large cast, there's prone to be someone who knows what they're doing. There were just so many times it felt like the characters did not care about what they were saying. And there are so many times where characters have unfunny lines that just take up time in the episode where they could be explaining something or doing something actually interesting. It feels like the Duffer Brothers don't care enough to make Stranger Things 5 not stupid. Maybe it's not entirely on the two dudes who made the show. Maybe there was some other source, like Netflix, influencing them.
Make it dumb. Make it for the people who aren't even paying attention at all. Make it for the little babies. Make it the baby show.
I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. It's just so heartbreaking to look at some of the amazingly written episodes early on in the show, and then look at what they're doing in season 5, and it completely pales in comparison. Hi. If you're wondering why the camera setup is different, I was editing, and I realized I barely talked about Stranger Things 1 at all. So I'm doing that right now. Stranger Things 1 felt like it had stakes. When there was danger, it felt like the characters were in danger, because not only were the actors selling it, but you didn't know about the insane amount of plot armor, the 4 seasons of plot armor. This was season 1. You didn't have the suspicion that someone was going to walk in and save the day because you didn't know what type of show this was. The show also changed in tone so much over time, especially in season 3, where it became more of like a summer blockbuster. Season 1 was focused on being a horror show, and it genuinely had some really good acting. When I went back to rewatch the season, I genuinely felt emotions because everything felt real. In this world, these were real people that I could actually care about. In season 5, you barely get to spend any time with any of the characters, so you don't really have a reason to care about any of them. They're all fully fleshed out. There's no longer any character drama. All that's left is the big bad guy. I want to mention how I didn't entirely hate season 5. It's obviously not perfect, but it has some really good scenes. The climax of episode 4 was really great. And then I really liked the scene at the beginning of episode 2. Plus, most of the action and horror scenes were really fun to watch. But I would be lying if I said I was a fan of the writing or character dialogue in Stranger Things Season 5. That's all I got. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. See you later. See you later. Bye-bye.